Now, I'm going to point this out. This shooting technique that I see most people do, I've seen this so many times over and over again. I see it in Overwatch. I see it at global rank that I'm at. I see it in pretty much all the ranks that I've seen people play. I've seen people do this, and this guy really wants to be in the shot. But this is something I see people do, and this is a pretty big mistake. At least I think it is. And the reason why I think it's a mistake is because you reach a threshold of how good you are. Now he doesn't want to be in the shot anymore. So what happens is you're going to basically, from what I've seen from the ranking of people doing this, they manage to perfect it, and he's back in the he wants to be in the shot. All right. So what happens is in the ranking system, as you're trying to play, these fucking guys. What happens is you're going to find you get to a threshold, to a point where you're only going to make it up to Supreme. To make it to that global rank, you need to be able to take people out in that small, short time frame. You don't have much. So say you're running down a corner, right? And you turn the corner and there's a CT looking at you. You don't have much time. You need to take that enemy out as quick as possible, right? You need to get him gone and done, and you don't want to waste bullets. Ron, for the love of God, Ron, I'm trying to make a point here. You need to have him taken out, and you got to use as little bullets as possible, and you want to be as effective as possible, right? And most of all, you want to take as little damage as possible, right? So in order to do that, you need to be able to ensure a kill as quick as possible. And how do you ensure a kill as quick as possible? Everybody knows that aiming at the head is the ultimate way to kill a person as quick as possible. But there's some things you need to take into account, okay? There's some things you got to take into account. God damn it, Ron. Look, he's even pushing Mark out of the way. Ron, I'm trying to make a point here, Ron. Ron, please. Please, Ron. All right. So everybody knows, and this is going to be good so I can show you with like when they have their back to you, because some people, I've seen shooting people with their back and they're like, how come I'm not hitting the head, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to show it to you guys. Okay, now we got Henry who wants to beat it. But most people, and remember, this looks like a good shooting style, and most people shoot like this, and this is where you're going to get the threshold. You're not going to make it as far as you'd like to make it, because there's a couple of things you got to take into account, like you're going to probably panic, especially when the pressure is put on you and you get into those really close games, you know, those 16-14 type of games, the score. It's going to, you want to be able to get an efficient kill as quick as possible, even when you panic. Henry, come on now. We can't have this. So most people aim at the neck, and I'm going to explain why this is the incorrect style of shooting. It looks good, but it's incorrect. So most people will shoot here, and this is a headshot. Yes, but the problem with it is a couple of things. In distance, you're going to see that aiming at the neck has a possibility of hitting the chest. I think they're... Whoa. Okay. So I think their health isn't right. But the problem with it is that if you aim at the neck and they have their back at you, you hit them in the chest. But if they aim at you, you hit them in the head. That's one problem, right? The other problem is if you were to be at, say, a distance. So let me just do this. I'm just turning on no clip to show you this. If you're to be at a distance, okay, so up close, I got to do it at an angle, up close. This is the neck, right? This is the neck, because you see his chin. I'm aiming at the neck. You see, it might even hit there. Comet 08, I believe people are not aim at neck on purpose. They are trying to aim at the head, but don't aim high enough. Yes, that is true, but most people will naturally aim at the neck. They're not aiming at the head. And I'll show you why they're naturally aiming at the neck. And I'm going to explain it here. So look, basically what happens is if you were to aim at the neck at distance, like this looks like a headshot. This looks like a headshot. And yes, it is, but there's a percentage chance that the bullet spread is going to lead it elsewhere. So it looks good, but you see that? Did you see that? The very first two bullets there, after killing the first guy, the second guy, the very first two bullets didn't hit the head until the second burst I took hit the guy in the head. That's where the problem comes into play. If you hit the chest, you're not doing the maximum amount of damage. If they have full health, you see, an M4A1S or an M4A4 will only do about 90-something damage, and then the next bullet to the chest will kill them. So some people I've seen who shoot, so assume this is your crosshair. Some people who I see shoot will let the bullets go up and then they pull down. So it looks pretty good. So it looks like that and then they pull down. It looks like a good shooting style. But the technique I'm going to be showing you is literally just pull down. Don't let the bullet go up. Because what ends up happening is I see people doing this and they think this is a headshot, okay? This looks like a headshot. And yeah, it might be, but sometimes it doesn't hit the head. Now listen to the dinks. I want you to listen to the dinks. That's the key thing. Listen to how many dinks are being made with this shooting style and how efficient I'm killing at people. And keep in mind, this is a technique that I've seen people do, and it's worked all the way to getting people up to supreme rank. They're not able to break past the global rank because you have to be very good and efficient at killing people to get to global. And yes, I've seen people use this technique to get to the global rank, but they have a hard time maintaining global, and I see them D-rank. So this looks like a good technique, but you can see the problem with it. It's not being as efficient. And what ends up happening is, assume you're playing a close game where it's like getting to 16-14, you're going to start panicking. So what happens when you panic? You start spraying. And most of the time I see people will go out and they'll do a burst and they notice it doesn't hit, and then they just quickly pull into a spray. And this is a problem because they think their spray is really good and it looks good, it feels good, you think you're doing a good job. But the problem with it is the bullet shots are not effective. You're going to be making a lot of mistakes. So what is the right way to shoot? So let's look at this. This is your crosshair, right? You want to first of all look at features of your crosshair that are going to make it easier for you to hit the opponent, right? So the first thing you want to look at here, let me make the crosshair a little bit better looking. It's still retarded. All right. But the point is, you want to look at features that make your crosshair easier to shoot for people, right? So most people will naturally aim in the middle of the crosshair. Some people I've seen aim right in between the top here and shoot the people in the head. But for me, for my crosshair, and I find this also works even for other people's crosshairs, is if you can do it one of two ways. If you're the type who likes to aim in the center, and remember, aiming at the head is the most important part of all. You got to aim at the head for the headshots. If you're the type that aims in the center, aim at the nose. Notice the difference. This is aiming at the neck, and yes, it's a headshot, but aiming at the nose is also a headshot. It's a better headshot. That's the key thing. It's a better headshot. So if you're the guy who aims at the center, you aim at the nose, okay? If that's the type of guy you are. But if you're also the type of guy who likes to look at features of the crosshair, which is what I do, you want to look at the horizontal line and notice how when I aim at the nose, notice my horizontal line is lined up with the top of the shoulders. Do you see that? So I could literally do that, and it's a headshot. As long as you line the horizontal line on the shoulders, and this doesn't have to be my crosshair. This can work with your crosshair. Just look for features of your crosshair that allow you to ultimately aim at the nose, okay? That's the key thing. Look for that. Because what do you do when you shoot? The first thing you do is you need to counter the recoil. So you pull down. And when you're pulling down, you're going to be pulling down to the neck, right? And that, remember, most people, I said in the past, it looks good, you aim at the neck. But what happens is when you spray, you start pulling down into the chest. If you're the type who aims at the nose, which is the proper way of aiming, which is directly at the head, and you pull down, look what happens. You aim at the neck. So ultimately, you're increasing your chances of hitting the head, doing more damage to the opponent, and taking them out a lot quicker, as opposed to panicking when you're aiming at the neck and possibly pulling down to hitting them in the chest and losing it ultimately. You know what I mean? Because you're going to be spraying. If you're the type to shoot the head and then spray and then maybe even pull down, you are more likely to hit the head and also hit the chest. Because remember, it only really takes 2 bullets to take them out after hitting them, or 1 bullet after hitting them in the head, right? So remember, now, as I said, you look for features of your crosshair. So mine is like aiming at on top of the shoulders to get that. So if you do that technique, you get more. Now I want you to listen to the dinks as opposed to the previous part where I didn't have as many dinks. Listen to the dinks that end up happening when you actually aim at the proper point. You hear more dinks. And all I'm really doing is literally just focusing on, if they're in far distance, it's hard for me to focus on the nose, so I use the horizontal line to aim it at the shoulders. So it's easier for me to pull it down to the head. And then all I'm doing is just pulling it down to the neck. I aim at the neck, with the horizontal line on top of the shoulders, and then as I'm shooting, I pull it down to the neck. So the recoil is ultimately mostly going to the head, and if worst case scenario, I end up having to spray, I can easily pull it into the chest, right? So another thing I want to point out is, let me just get this. So the AK, everybody knows this is a 1-hit kill to the head, all right? Instant You see that? Instant one hit kill to the head. And right there, you just saw me doing that technique I told you. Aim at the nose, use features of your crosshair to make it easier for you to know where to aim, and it basically ultimately gets you killed. But if you're the type who I told you before, aim at the neck, it does look good. And remember, the recoil of the AK, like, let's just look at this. Look how much recoil of the AK. Like, I could pull it down, but notice how that one bullet went up? So people who aim at the neck are more likely to assume they're doing it right, but ultimately it's not an accurate shooting style because it's not superly effective, because if you aim at the neck, you have a possibility of misaiming, and you could be aiming down here, on the side, whatever. Point is, you're more likely to hit the chest if you're a type of guy that's aiming at the neck, okay? You might be the guy who says, yeah, I'm aiming at the head, but subconsciously you're ultimately aiming at the neck. This looks like I'm aiming at the head, but believe me when I tell you, this is aiming at the neck, and this is aiming at the head. You see how it's like a millimeter of the difference? But it is a big difference. And how do I know the difference? Because remember, I looked for features of my crosshair where I looked at the horizontal line, and the horizontal line matched up with the shoulders. Look at that, matched up with the shoulders. This is the neck, this is the head. It doesn't look like that much of a difference, but it is a difference, okay? So, and this is what you guys got to do when you're looking at your crosshair. Look for features of your crosshair that make it ultimately easy to aim at the nose or the point center of the head. So it's more likely for you to hit the shots in the head. And all you're doing is pulling down to here. Well, that sums it up. And if you guys enjoyed it, please do leave a like and a comment letting me know what you guys thought of this video. And if you guys would like to see more videos like this, I know you guys are going to probably ask about my crosshair and how you guys can get the similar crosshair to it. But I recommend you guys try out your own crosshair because you're more comfortable with your own, and try to figure out how you can tweak it to be better so you can accurately control your recoil. That's what I always tell people. But if you guys really keep bugging me about it, I just might come out with a crosshair video. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll see you guys later.